Go here. All right, guys. Hello and welcome to Tuesday Notary Titans for Tuesday, December 17th, 2019. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and the Sign and Thrive Notary Training Course and Community. And our co-host today, Carol Ray, founder of Notary to Pro. Carol, welcome. Glad you made it.
Yeah, me too, but I can hardly hear you. Is anybody else having that problem, or is it just me?
Anybody else having a problem hearing me?
I can hear you.
It might be your volume.
I've got it up almost to 80. Oh, okay.
I'll talk loudly. Yeah. All right. Carol, so this is our last TNT for 2019 and the decade. 2020 is just right around the corner. This is the last TNT for us. So just so you know, no TNT on Christmas Eve, no TNT on New Year's Eve. Carol, what are we going to do with 2 weeks, a 2-week break?
What do we get? I really almost can't hear you. I'm going to have to go to my settings. I am, somebody's got their first signing yesterday. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I am, I'm looking forward to having a break, kind of getting refreshed, and we're going to be thinking of new things for next year. We've been doing this a year, you and me.
Yeah.
A little over a year. Isn't that unbelievable?
It is. It's been awesome. One of my favorite things is Tuesday mornings.
Yeah. I remember when we first talked.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I trust him. I don't know what he's up to.
Well, I'm glad it worked out.
Good.
Yeah.
I have to excuse myself for a minute. I have to check my settings because I seriously can hardly hear.
You got it. We're going to go ahead and get started, guys. You know, this is the time for you. We do have some great questions that have been submitted, but since this is our last time of the year together, I'd really like to solicit a lot more questions from the audience. So if you are live on today's call and you have a question or a win, I see Diana had her first signing yesterday. That's awesome. We love hearing that. Congratulations. But if you have a question and would like to ask on here, feel free to do so. We've got our first taker, Lauren. Welcome. And Lauren, if you're talking, you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Hi, good morning, Bill and Carol. I have a question about affidavits. I'm noticing that, particularly the ones I get from out of state, but also from California for California properties, that they have, they're asking for an acknowledgement, not a jurat. And it seems to me affidavit in and of itself is taking an oath of something. And so it seems like it should be policy a jurat, but I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So my question is, shouldn't if you have a signer sign an affidavit, shouldn't they be also taking an oath, and you should be notarizing your notarization certificate should be a jurat?
Well, it depends on what the document says. If it is a jurat, then you treat it as a jurat, and if it's not, you don't. Is that your question, or?
Well, like for example, a compliance agreement or name affidavit or a any of those.
Well, the challenge with what you're presenting here, Lauren, is that there's not necessarily a blanket where every occupancy affidavit is exactly the same. So every lender could be different, every title company could be different, every state might be different. So there's not necessarily a blanket policy that you could apply to every document. It's the document itself is the ruler of that, if you will. It tells you what it is.
Right. Well, yeah. I guess where I'm getting stuck is the fact that it's an affidavit. That's where I'm getting stuck, because to me, affidavit means that you're taking an oath. But what I have done is I've just, whatever they put on there, whether it's an acknowledgement or jurat, if I have to put a new certificate, it's like out of state, then I just put whatever they did as far as like an acknowledgement or jurat. but it doesn't quite feel right. But maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Well, no, it's great to think about that kind of stuff for sure. But just calling something an affidavit doesn't necessarily mean automatically that it is a jurat in all cases. Still, the language of the document is going to determine that.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Great question. All right, we got some questions over in the chat window. Carol, are you up and ready to go? Can you hear me?
Barely. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong.
Okay. All right, so John asks, is it okay to abbreviate state and county? Carol, can you hear that okay? Is it okay to abbreviate state and county?
Yeah, I've never had a problem with it. You're talking about in the venue?
In the venue of your notary block? Yeah. I have, I mean, I guess depending on the name of the county, I abbreviate the state all the time and I always write out the county. That's just me. I'm in Maricopa County. It's a little bit of a long name, but I'd like to spell that out only because other states' counties are not necessarily just second knowledge. You know, other people in other states don't know our counties. So I like to spell that out for them, but the state codes, that's kind of a universal knowledge. So that's the way I operate. Excellent. Anybody else live on the call that would like to answer or ask a question? And then while you're posing that question, I'll ask Diane's here. What size FedEx and UPS envelopes do you use? I only see envelopes big enough for letter size. They do have legal size envelopes and bigger also for some of these bigger loan packages. So definitely get the bigger one. You want to avoid folding paperwork at any cost. When you fold stuff, that's how things can get jammed up a little bit. So try to get an envelope that fits the size of your paper.
Bill, another consideration is that some signing services and title companies only want the documents to be returned in FedEx with the large envelopes, or excuse me, with using the hard cardboard envelopes. They don't want those little poly plastic flimsy bags. They want it varies from signing service to signing service, but I've seen more and more that say, do not use those plastic poly bags to return your documents.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And a lot of signing agents will go a little above and beyond too. They will put the documents in the hard cardboard and then put them in those softer poly bags for greater protection as it goes through. So you want to try to keep it's almost like common sense. You want those documents to be as protected as possible. So when they get there, they're not going to be shredded or torn or able to change order. Like some of those big poly envelopes are so big that the documents could get out of order if the clip came off. Let's see.
I'm going to make a suggestion for that.
Yeah.
When we're suffering from bad weather, rain, especially when you live in areas where the weather's really, really bad, I would always tuck, if they want the cardboard envelope, tuck one into the polyethylene because you protect your documents that way, regardless of what they say. You don't want them to get wet. And I've had that happen before.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes the rain, sometimes a cup of coffee. Learn that the hard way.
I'm going to leave for a minute because I really can't hear. And I'll come back and let me see what happens.
Okay. Lupe says, when starting out as a loan signing agent, do we need both a $100,000 bond and E&O insurance in California? Thank you. So Lupe, great question. Thank you for asking that. The first thing that we have to do is discuss the difference between bond and E&O insurance. I've got a video on my YouTube channel that will explain the difference to this in greater detail, but your bond is something that your state might require to become a notary. That bond protects the signer or the public against mistakes that you would make. And if you have to have something paid out of a bond, you have to pay that back. That usually is only 5, 10, 15. I think we have one state that requires a $20,000 bond. That's all you need for bond. Then your E&O insurance, or your errors and omissions, is totally different. That protects you in the event that you make a mistake. And if you end up having to use it, it's like real insurance. You don't have to pay it back. That's where we usually recommend a $100,000 policy, especially if you plan to go attorney direct or escrow direct. They're probably going to require that. However, if you're just starting out and you're just going to work with signing companies, most signing companies only require a $25,000 coverage. But just remember, there's two different types of quote unquote insurance there. A bond is totally different than E&O insurance. And if you need me to expand on that, Lupe, feel free to type it in there. Mike Howard says, can I use a signature stamp on signing or general notary work? If you're just talking about a stamp that has your signature on it, that usually does not fly. It might be state specific, but I've never heard of any state allowing that. Dita says, can I notarize a document with acknowledgement by mail for an old friend? I'm in California. So Dita, the physical presence law still exists in California. So without your friend being in front of you, I don't see how you can do that. Carol, any feedback on that?
No, you can't do that. It could be somebody very close to you. Doesn't matter. They have to be in front of you. It could come back and really bite you at some point in time.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes it's those close relationships that get taken advantage of by friends, family, or acquaintances.
Next door neighbor, oh, will you please do this? My husband signed it this morning.
Yeah.
You know him. You know John.
Yeah, that's a really big deal. Samara, you have your hand up. Would you like to unmute and ask?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
From Kentucky and Indiana. I kind of got a good problem, but I need a little advice. I need to meet some other signing agents in my area, and I am having to turn down maybe 25% of the calls that I get because I can't be in more than one place at one time. And so I looked on the Secretary of State to see, for the state of Kentucky, and there were like 100,000 names. So I was like, okay, I can't do it this way. But do you have any suggestions on how I can meet some other people in my area to take some of this work off my hands?
Well, what a great problem to have. I love that. The first thing I think, announcing it on this call is a great first start, Samara. If there is anybody from Kentucky and Indiana that would like to reach out to you, where can they reach you?
Okay. I'm sorry I'm not typing, guys, because I'm driving, but it's KentuckyAnnaMobile@gmail. So KentuckyAnnaMobile@gmail. KentuckyAnnaMobile@gmail. And then I'm also KentuckyAnnaMobile.com. I got like a whole website and everything. So,
All right.
and Bill, I owe like a lot of my success to you. So I just want to give hats off to you. I've learned a lot from just being affiliated with you. So thank you.
Oh, awesome. Well, you're very welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's talk about some other resources for you too, because I like to recommend a few other places. Carol, if somebody wanted to learn about other signing agents in their area, where would you send them?
Well, for me, it's kind of obvious, and that would be Notary to Pro Graduates, because you want to get a group together that you can trust. And if you're just pulling random people in, you don't know that you can trust them. And when I say trust, and this is really important, because I've had a group like this in Phoenix where there was like 5 of us, and we really grew to trust one another. You knew that if you recommended them to a company, if you couldn't take a signing, but you wanted to give them somebody good, rather than going outside of your group and getting somebody that would steal your business, you would recommend them to this one of the people in the group. And we knew that none of us would take anybody else's work. That whatever they did for you, it was a one-time shot. And so I would recommend that you're welcome to look for Notary to Pro graduates. Bill, I'm sure, has people within the area somewhere.
Mhm.
And try to get these people to actually meet, get to know each other before you start randomly handing out work. I would definitely do that. And I'm just being protective. You've worked hard to gain that trust and get that work, and to just hand it out to people you don't know anything about, I think is a mistake. So do due diligence and, form something a little more permanent.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is what is going to be your team, Samara. So there's going to be the Notary to Pro list. Sign and Thrive has a list too inside the Facebook community, and then also signingagent.com. And I'll caution you, just like Carol says, use caution and have an interview process coming up. And number of years in the industry does not translate to likability. They may still not be a good fit, even with 20 years experience. So have some sort of system in place so you can screen them and that trust. And you might only need a couple of them, but it will be a really powerful team. Love that. Love, what a great problem to have, Samara. I'm happy for you. Awesome.
Bill,
Now,
this is Garrett.
Garrett,
Yeah,
you
I'm
keep
sorry.
unmuting. Do you want to, you have a
Yes.
question for us?
I
Hi.
do. I actually have a question for Carol Ray, because Carol, one of the things, I've taken Bill's course, and I'm very interested in taking your course and going ahead and paying for that before the end of the year. Can you talk just a little bit about what you cover in your course so that I have a better idea of what it is that you cover?
Well, basically, I'm the foundation person. There's other people, especially Bill, that will take you beyond. Once you get the details, and I'm talking about the tiniest little details of everything that we do, that's what I concentrate on. I don't know how to cover it, but just everything that you need to know, little things. I mean, little things. What do you do when you get to the porch? How do you go through the documents? How do you seat people at a table? I have a chapter in there, an article that I wrote actually, that's called The Anatomy of a Loan. And it goes through all the details. I like people to know what everybody else's job is. Where do you fit in as a notary signing agent? Safe traveling. In fact, I wanted to bring up a little story this morning because I have one. Bill reminded me of it. And it's just very intense, very detailed, and that's what people seem to really like. I've never grown beyond that because that's all I can handle. And I do mentor my students for years. I love it. It's my favorite part of doing it. But that stretches me about as far as I want to go, because I think I'm really good at what I do. But when it comes to growing and doing different things, we do have something in our graduates website, which is a graduates teaching graduates how to do other things so they can expand their businesses. But if you've been watching Bill or you've been taking his courses, you know how valuable what he does. He gets into every crevice and crack and pulls things out that are of interest to people that will help them to grow. Basically what I do, I love it. And I think I'm the best at it. So.
Okay. Well, I've noticed that there's a couple of companies out there that require Notary to Pro to work for them. And so since I had taken Bill's course earlier this year, I thought, well, the next one is Carol Ray's. So I'm going to be signing up for your course here in the next couple of days.
I'll look forward to that. So, I appreciate that. I've been doing it for 10 years. I was a retired escrow manager and did this for 14 years, did the signings. It's just my passion. It's what I love to do.
Thank you.
Yep, great question, Garrett. Thank you. Beth Hathett, you have a question or
Hello, Bill. Hey,
hi.
I just wanted to take a minute and express my gratitude for you and Carol and all that you're doing trying to promote and better the notary community. You know, we're at the end of the year and I'll relay a little story to you. My husband asked me a few days ago, why are you always spending so much time reading, so much time on these webinars, so much time doing this and that? He said, you've been a notary for 14 years. You ought to know what you're doing by now. And my first thought was, well, I have to meet my husband on his level. So I said to him, if you're a quarterback and you make it to the pros, do you say, I don't need any more coaching because I'm a pro now? No, you continue to practice, you continue to have coaching, and you continue to hone your craft. And when I told him that, he understood why I am continually trying to learn, trying to better what I do, trying to hone, excuse me, trying to hone my business to a target where I want it to be. And I just wanted to thank you and Carol for bringing us all to that point and just let everybody know that you can never get too much training.
And you said something that's a key, Beth. This is a craft. This, what we do, it truly is. And it's constantly changing and you have to keep up with things.
Yes, ma'am, you were right.
I love that.
I want to announce with Beth too, Bill, when you give me a second here. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I do it all the time.
It's all right. Go for it.
Okay.
I'm used to it now.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I do it. My kids hate it. But I've got this brain, you know, that if stuff pops in there, if I don't say it, it's never going to get remembered.
You got to strike when the iron's hot. I'm right there with you. Go for it.
But Beth and I talked, and we have now, I want everybody to know that we have a panel of 4 people. And we are going to start our primetime notaries once a month. And we're kind of zooming in on the day and the time that we're going to do this. And this is going to be a meeting much like what we do with TNT. We're going to be, and I've had a lot of people write and show interest. There are so many of us in this work now that are in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And we're going to be talking about the challenges and giving each other ideas and help and information. And I'm very excited about it. And I love this idea that Beth came up with. And so I'm going to be sending out email and everything. If you're interested, do me a favor, just send me a blank email with nothing but your email address in it, because I'm going to start to collect a database so that we can send out notices and everything. But it's going to start second week in January. We don't know what time yet.
Excellent. I love that you guys are moving forward on that. And thank you, Beth, for chiming in. It's such a pleasure to be a part of this. I know Carol and Laura, we really look forward to spending time with you on Tuesdays. So thank you for that. Then Joan, I see that you keep unmuting. I'm so sorry. I think we're talking right over. You have a question for us?
Yes, I do. I have a signing this morning at 10:30 at California time, and I have a dry state wire request form. And I'm not quite exactly sure who is supposed to fill this out. Are you familiar with that?
I haven't heard it called that before. Carol, does
I
that sound
haven't
familiar to you?
Dry state meaning don't
Dry
use
state
don't
wire
drink.
request form.
I mean, it's either don't drink or don't use wet ink.
I thought too, but it has the loan number and the borrower name, and it says once you have been approved for closing by this mortgage company, you're authorized to have the borrower to sign our closing package, all dry states, Alaska, Arizona, California, Idaho, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, refinances only, Oregon and Washington, require you to order the wire from our wire coordinating team. When you are ready to order the wire, upload this form and the following on the wire request section of the settlement agent portal. And then it gives 1, 2, 3, 4 choices. Closing disclosure change request form with disbursement wire along with any fee changes. Second one is California per diem interest affidavit. Fill out wire when needed, wire needed and recording date. Third one is notice of right to cancel. Dates must be handwritten and initialed. Fourth one is any closing conditions listed on page 4 of the closing instructions. And then it says for same day wire request, the request must be uploaded to the wire request section of the settlement agent portal by 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The closing agent must disperse funds on this loan exactly as specified on the lender closing disclosure. If any of the amounts have changed since the issuing of the closing disclosure, you must notify us in writing of any of the changes. Please use the closing disclosure change request form included in the closing package. Once the fees have been updated, the lender will issue the revised final closing disclosure. See page 3 of our closing instructions for other dry state requirements. Thank you for choosing this mortgage company.
Okay, that's the instructions from the lender to the escrow officer or the closing agent for requesting the funds from the bank to close the to wire the funds from the bank to the seller of that property or the builder.
That's kind of what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So I don't have to do anything with it.
Yeah, exactly. Carol, any other feedback on that one? That's kind of right up here. No, it's just pretty clear.
Okay, it was just it was different than others that I've seen that basically say the same thing, but it was kind of vague. Who takes care of this? So thank you so much.
You bet. It's probably one of those East Coast banks where they're used to doing.
I will. That's exactly right.
All
so
right.
you said a dry state. I've lived in dry states or visited many of them when we traveled. And a dry state means there's no alcohol.
Yeah, or a dry county. Yeah.
I won't say where, but we all know where that one is.
I don't hang out in dry counties very often.
I'm sorry
this is Valerie.
Hey, Valerie.
I've had one of those dry state, and it's just a disbursement or wire instructions. I can't remember if it was a cash out or if it was a borrower were owed, but I just sort of ignored the word dry state, and we just completed it. If it was necessary, if there's money due to or from, I just treated it like the regular wire form.
Got it. Cool. Thank you for that.
And
Thank you so
Valerie,
much. I'm sorry that I have to go now. I've got this appointment and I'm
Go get it, Joan.
Bill, I want to point out Valerie, Dennis, and I also think that there's something that should be brought up. But Valerie is going to be on our panel for prime time.
Great.
She's one of the people that's going to be prime time. I don't know if you feel that this is an appropriate place, but I do. I think that you should post the link to the GoFundMe and make a little announcement for anybody, just if they don't know what happened here. I think it's important. We're a family here.
Absolutely, and I'm really passionate about this. Jason Braunstein was a good friend, an amazing notary, and an inspiration for so many of us through the Safe Haven for New Notaries Facebook page, of which Valerie is the co-founder on that as well. And guys, he just passed away. It's a week ago today. And this is still really, really fresh and hard for his family. It's right before the holidays. So I can't even imagine what they're going through. And I'm really committed to helping us get to that goal, that $13,000 goal. Guys, that's only 2 months of his income. And that's nothing compared to what they're having to go through. But if we can relieve just a little bit of the financial pressure so they can take a little time for the emotional healing, I think that's really important for us to come through for him, for everything that he did. We do have the GoFundMe. We're doing great. You guys have been so supportive. It is amazing. We're past the halfway point, so we're getting there. But this is just, if anything that you can give, or you can just share it on your Facebook pages. It blows me away, the people who have stepped up to the plate, who didn't even know him and are contributing. So anything we can do to spread the word, do what you can. There's no like pressure, I know every little dollar counts, but we're not asking you to sink your ship to help theirs, but anything that you can do is going to make a difference. And just sharing this is sometimes the biggest gift we can give him.
We sent out an email, as you probably saw from the donations, to our database, graduates and students, and I'm so proud of them. Thank you so much, every one of you. The $5, the $10, and some of them a lot more than that. Yeah. Many of you didn't even know Jason, and I appreciate it, doing that on behalf of Notary to Pro, because I cared a great deal about him personally. He was a really good man.
Definitely.
So, okay, I'm glad we brought that up.
Yep, thank you for bringing it up. Okay, guys, let's jump into the presentation now. We've got some great questions on here.
Can I tell a story first?
Oh yeah, totally.
My husband reminded me of this. This, and I have to ask you guys something. I got a call yesterday from the managing editor for NNA, and apparently they liked what I wrote. I don't know why, but it made me feel good. But he was asking me other things that I could write. They'd like to have an article like once a month or something. And I talk a lot about your gut and going with your gut. And I was thinking, I think I'll do an article about the gut. What do you think? Think that'd be interesting? Okay. So Bill reminded me of something, and this is really indicative of going with your gut. And he did it this one night. We drove in a thunderstorm, raining. It was bad, from Sun City, Arizona to Mesa, Arizona, which was a pretty good drive. And this was for a signing. We got into the neighborhood and it was pretty flooded. There was just high water everywhere. And there was just one little area, like a block long. And we could see that there was water on the road, but we couldn't tell how much. It was dark out. And my husband said, I'm going to go with my gut. And we're going to drive 3 miles. We called the guy, it was the sheriff. And we called him and he said, told us how to go around to stay away from the higher water. And it didn't look so bad. And we're like, well, we could probably do it, but it's okay. So we drove 3 miles around to get to his house to avoid this one little street that had this water on it. After the signing, we come out, and right along their house is that little street that had the water on it. And there was a car out there that was halfway filled with water. And it was the same car as ours. We used to have a Chrysler 300, one of those silver ones. It was identical to ours. And there he sat, waiting in the water with a Chrysler half filled with water.
Wow.
And so my husband was saying, tell him about this morning. That's real gut feeling that I had. He was very proud. But it's true. Always listen to your gut.
Yeah, we get messages based on our instinct every day. And, when the rough stuff happens, it's usually because we've chosen to ignore that voice, or we haven't quieted our mind enough to hear it. I love it. And I think that plays such a great role. I hope you write an article about that.
I'm going to ask for people telling me gut stories.
Love it. Love it. All right, let's jump in here and take a look at our slideshow. All right, from Nicole. Oh, speaking of Kentucky, I think she's in Kentucky. I'm commissioned in Kentucky, in Jefferson County. Should I try becoming commissioned in other surrounding counties? And if so, how do I go about doing it? I think, well, Carol, you look like
not counties. You're covered for the entire state, so you won't need another commission. I think Louisiana is probably the only place where they commission for certain parishes and stuff. I don't know. But in Kentucky, I know that you can get a dual commission in Indiana. And if you're close to an Indiana border, you might be able to do that. Just check with your Secretary of State's office and see about getting a dual commission. You can get dual commission in Virginia and DC. Somebody told me the other day about Colorado, that you can actually get a, what's next to Colorado, that you can get a dual commission, Colorado and something else.
Oh, interesting.
Carrie just said Illinois and Wisconsin. If you live next to the border of another state, just check with your Secretary of State or governor's office, whoever is your, the mandated regulator for notaries, and see.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And so I know in states like Ohio and Kentucky, where the certain county might issue your commission, but you are likely a state notary, so you can cross county lines. So definitely check in with your Secretary of State to clarify that, but you're good to go in all those counties. Sierra says, when attempting to collect a payment, how long should I wait before I contact the company? The payment was due on the 21st of the month, and I was going to wait until the 26th to contact them. Carol, any suggestions on this?
Be realistic. In this modern world of ours, where they have all the technological advances to get money to you quickly, like overnight, you're probably going to wait 30 to 40 days.
Yeah.
So if they've promised you're going to be paid on the 21st, try, but don't get upset if you don't get paid for 30 days or 40.
Yeah. And I would say, I have to analyze the question a little bit too, but who set the due date? Was that the company's own policies where it should have been paid on the 21st, or was that just your policy because you put it on your invoice? That would be my first question on this one. If you're working with signing companies or anything via SnapDocs, they probably have their own payment policies, and it will be in their company information. So if they told you it would be due or paid on the 21st and it's not, I usually give them at least a week just to allow for stuff to come in the mail or whatever it might be. And then you can do a follow-up. And whenever you follow up, always give them the benefit of the doubt that something weird happened. There was a delay, it got lost in the mail or something. Your tone really means a lot. Warm up your tones. In your emails, have a greeting, use their name. If you know it, use your name, introduce yourself. I get tons of emails from people who just talk and they don't tell me who they are. There's no warm up. It's just going in. I highly encourage you to warm up your communication with anybody that you are interested in building a relationship with. Always keep the big picture in mind too. You don't want to piss somebody off over $100 when they could be, $10, $20, $30,000 a year. So your tone really makes a difference with this.
One of the things that I used to do if I didn't get paid in what I felt was a fair amount of time, is that I would call and I would say, this probably fell through the cracks, but I just want to double check and make sure, that I did have a check coming. You usually pay me sooner. And could you just check and see if maybe it's been sent and I just didn't receive it or something? It's amazing what a difference it makes. So Bill's absolutely right. How you approach these things can make a difference to whether you keep that customer or not.
I just had an interesting situation happen to me this week too. I got a letter in the mail from one of my clients who told me that they had mailed me a check back in July and I had not negotiated the check or cashed the check yet. And they wanted to make sure that I had received it or if it was lost. So a lot of these bigger companies, they need to balance their books. So if it can go the other way too, where they're like urging you to cash your check. So all I had to do was let them know I didn't get it, and they're overnighting another check to take care of that. So I thought that was pretty cool.
These electronic checks now, which I've started using, I love them. Oh my God. You go to Deluxe Checks and you purchase them for like 60 cents a piece or something, and it's money immediate that you can send to people or that you receive. But we had a situation where somebody didn't get paid, and it was only because she didn't realize that she had to go online and download this check. She got notification and dismissed it. It didn't dawn on her that was a payment.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so we have to be very careful now. It's not just checks that, paper checks.
Love it. All right, great question, Sierra. So from Mike, when you are completing a loan application and there are no notarizations, do you record anything in your journal? So typically in most states, Mike, well, in some states, it'll tell you that you should not record anything but a notarial act in your journal. And I think California, Carol, is that they're pretty particular about that too, right?
Yes.
And most states are. So if you're not performing a notarial act, if you're not acting in the capacity of notary public, then you should probably not enter it in your journal. Still, people like to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Carol.
No, you go ahead. I keep interrupting you.
No, that's all right. There's other people have other record keeping methods for keeping track of that. But if there's not a notarization, you should typically not put it in there. I'd be really curious.
I have an idea that I've been telling my students. Our journals are our memory, especially when you're old like me. You can't remember things. What I suggest to my students is to put an envelope in the back of our journal, actually glue it like a, letter number 10 or something. And that in that envelope, when you have something either weird that you did or something that you really want to keep track of, like credible witness affidavits, you get an affidavit from the credible witness. It doesn't go to anybody. Nobody wants it except you. Put it in the envelope in the date that the signing was done. Keep any kind of records. Like if you did an application and you want to keep track of it, and you want to keep it within the date that you did the not notarization, but that took the application with it, put stuff in that envelope. If you ever have to refer to it, it's not in your journal. You can easily take the envelope out if your journal's ever, they want to take it to court or something. But keep an envelope filled with all of those things that you might want to refer to at some date and time.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually. Love it. Anybody live on the call that has a question that you'd like to unmute and ask? All right. Oh, we got one. Patricia Bridges. How's it going, Patricia?
Hey, everybody. Good morning, Bill and Carol. I did my first loan signing in my car.
Oh.
I thought it was interesting, and it was reminiscent of some of the stories I had been hearing from the classes and reading the blogs. I had my tires, I got new tires, and going to a bank signing 3 miles away, one of my tires flew off.
Oh.
Had no lug nuts.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's right. She called me.
And I said, oh my goodness, don't panic. What are you going to do? So I called the client who was waiting at the bank, and I asked him, would he please join me? Told him what happened. He came, he found me, parked behind me. I had a box in my trunk of my car, and we used it as a makeshift desk. Did the signing, got it complete. He asked me if I would be all right, and I told him, thank you, I would. As soon as he left, I would call a flatbed, through AAA to get my car towed. And I told him no matter what, I would be dropping off his loan package that day, which I did. Got my car reassembled and was able to make my evening appointment. And I was like, wow, I did it.
Yeah.
And I was able to make sure that client took care of his signing, because it was dated. Other than that, it would have had to been rescheduled. And he wasn't that far from me. And I just asked him, would he be willing to come to me under the circumstances? And he was gracious enough to do that. So I was pretty pleased with myself.
Well, I think you should be. That's amazing. And talk about a MacGyver notary. I mean, you had some stuff thrown at you and you made it work. You were solution
Took his
oriented.
check, did the notarization and everything, his ID, did my log,
Yeah.
and it was raining too. So we were all
Jeez.
elbow to elbow in my car.
Oh, wow. Wow. Awesome story. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank
Well
you
done.
all, because you've given me the confidence to do things like that and not panic about what I can't do.
Yeah.
And I just took the bull by the horns and said, hey, I'm thankful I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't get hurt, but I was able to take care of my, objective for that morning, which was do that loan signing at 9:30.
I love that. I love that. Awesome job.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah, you too, Patricia. Thank you. That's an amazing story, because there's always things that come up. There's always going to be a reason not to follow through and do what you said you were. Your car's going to break down. You're going to get flat tires. The kids are going to stay home sick. All of those things. And yet there's always a way to find a solution if you're solution oriented, to find a way to make it happen. Love it. Deb, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was also going to comment on the MacGyver a bit. Since I've started, I've had all sorts of car issues, including having accidents and stuff, having to rely on Uber and Lyft to get to places, buses to get to places. All my signers, if they've had to change location that we come a little closer, they've been more than happy to do that. It's, oh, well, don't worry about it. We'll meet you halfway or whatever. So I'm also one of the other ones out there that make it work, make it happen. So regardless.
I love it, Deb. That's I have a story for this too. So I know, weird, huh? So punctuality is a big deal to me. Like if I'm late, that really bugs me, even though most people are super cool. But I always build in cushions of time. And this one time I was on I-10 and my tire blew completely. And I was in Malibu, and that's the year that Chevy decided not to put spare tires in their cars. But I didn't know that. So I was pulling the thing apart. I was like, determined not to be late to this signing. So I called a tow truck and I called Lyft. And I put that pin right on the freeway, and that Lyft driver pulled right up behind me, got me in the car. I left a note on the car that said, "Tow truck driver, take it here." And I have my favorite place where I get my car worked on every time. That has saved my butt building a relationship with a car maintenance company. And I took that Lyft to the signing, got another Lyft, and got dropped off after the signing back at my car, and got that car up and going, all in a matter of 2 hours. And I was still 7 minutes late to that signing, but it all came together to get the job done. I could have easily bailed on that, but that's just not who I wanted. That's not how I wanted to build my business.
Bill?
Yeah, hey.
Valerie, I wanted to answer a question from Blanca. She's in Texas, so we're both Texas notaries, and she's asking about IDs and whether or not we can use foreign IDs. And in Texas, for general notary work, we have to have a United States government issued photo ID with a signature. So that's a driver's license, a state ID, a military ID. It can be a U.S. resident alien card, as long as it's issued by the U.S. government or a United States. The only time, and the very, very only time we can take a foreign passport unexpired is if it is a residential real estate transaction. So it doesn't have to be a whole loan package. It can be just the deed. But if it's not the whole loan package with the deed in it, as far as I know, that it's for conveyance. So the very only time you can take a foreign ID, and it has to be a passport only, is for real estate, residential.
Yep, great clarification. And Valerie, if somebody wanted to do research in Texas, where would you send them?
I would send them to sos.texas.gov and click on the notary section. We have, they have a little training. They have a big, several conference videos, and I believe that somewhere there's a download of it, of, you know, like a handbook of sorts.
Great. Thank you. Awesome. Great questions. Helen, you have a question?
Sorry.
Sorry, Carol.
No, I have something I wanted to bring up because it's kind of has something to do with that, but I get a lot of questions about one particular document when they're handling a sale, and that is the affidavit of foreign status. I get a lot of questions about that, and so if you want to give me a second, I'll explain what it is.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, because this seems to confuse people. They just don't know what it is and how to do it. A number of years ago, especially when the Japanese came in and started buying a lot of property in the United States, what they would do is they would hang on to it till it was a lot more valuable, and then they'd sell it and take the money out of the country. And the IRS stepped in and said, look, they got to pay taxes on this money. And so that affidavit of foreign status is a document that is signed in escrow. And basically it states that I am a US citizen, and I'm purchasing this property, or I'm selling this property, and I'm entitled to retain the money because I'm a US citizen, and I'll take care of my taxes outside of this transaction. If they are not US citizens, they have to disclose that on the affidavit of non-foreign status, and the escrow officer is responsible for holding 10% of that sales price back. They have to keep the money in escrow so that the IRS has time to determine whether or not taxes are due from that foreign entity. And so for any of you who've run across that, don't know what to do with it, that's what it is. And it always needs to be there when it's involving people that are non-residents.
Wonderful. Great explanation. Helen, you have a question.
I do. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that stuff. I do not have a MacGyver story. I'm so sorry. But I have a question. I had a signing, and when I got there, they said that I was supposed to have been told not to come because they had questions about some numbers. And I had said, oh, okay. I said, that's not a problem. I said, I actually only got the documents a couple of hours ago and had them printed. I said, maybe they got them corrected. So they said, come on in and let's take a look. And no, they weren't. So we tried to call his loan officer, didn't get anybody. I tried to call my signing place, didn't get anyone. I did leave a voicemail. I said, no problem. I said, as soon as I get it worked out, I'd appreciate it if you would ask for me. Maybe I can come back and take care of this for you. So they said they would. So I did hear from them yesterday, and I'm going back out there on Thursday. Yay, I'm so glad. My question is, on a number of the signing places, you have to go in to tell them that it's been completed, and that generates an invoice. Since I did not completed, I did go in there and say that it wasn't completed. I don't know if that should be paid something to me, I hope, and if I need to do an invoice somehow.
Great question. Carol, I see you shaking your head. You want to take this one?
Yeah, you should absolutely be paid something. They should have communicated to you that they are holding off until the people had the chance to go over the figures and make sure it's correct. I just hate that when I hear stories like that, and then they'll just say, well, you didn't sign and you don't get paid anything. You're entitled, if nothing else, you're entitled to a print and trip fee, which is generally 1/2, 50% of what they would have paid you. It's just unfortunate that there's a big lack of communication today between, there's so much of the snap docs and the sending out texts. And this is a big thing I'd like to address sometime, is the problem that so many of the notaries are having, because there isn't the opportunity that there used to be to build the relationships that we really wanted to have with companies. My relationships with companies as I was doing signings was a whole different thing than it is now. Now it's they get a text. If you don't grab it in time, you don't get it. Every once in a while, you'll have two people showing up to the same signing. Things will happen. My daughter had a similar situation. She got to the house and they said, well, didn't they let you know these figures are way off and we don't want to sign? And she, printed the documents, drove 45 minutes to get to the signing. And yet her, unless she actually goes back out, the pay is going to be maybe $25, $50. So yeah, I feel for you, but I would definitely make sure that you submit an invoice to them and let them know, we'd be happy to go out again, but for this time, there was a lack of communication, not your fault.
Well, thank you, Carol, so much. I do want to say that when I left, I actually called again because I didn't get anyone at the signing company. And I had just, on the message, I said, I've left there now and I'm going to wait a few minutes. I've pulled over and I'm going to wait to see if I hear from you, or maybe the loan officer will call and say something I didn't know. And I also left the voice message for that, the loan officer also telling him the same thing, that I did leave, but I'm just right down the road. If you want to call me, I can go back,
Nice.
something like that. And so, Carol, I appreciate you telling me that I need to submit an invoice, but some of those companies, you don't do an invoice. They have their own way that generates after you do it. So how do I go about doing an invoice that way?
I would still send them a written invoice.
Oh, okay.
I would still do that because they aren't going to they're not going to pay you after that didn't happen. It didn't close. Nobody's going to go, oh, well, she's entitled to.
And the signing company still hasn't called me.
Yeah, that's, and
they did
that we've talked about before. And I actually brought something up that we had a situation one time where we went to a young lawyer's house and, the company did not tell us that the signing had been canceled. And they didn't tell the young man that it had been canceled. There was some reason for it. And he ended up getting angry with us because, I know what it was. We didn't go because they told us it was canceled. We didn't call the borrower. We just took it from the company and we didn't go. And then the next day they had rescheduled it and we showed up at the house and he was furious with us. He was not happy with us. And we're like, well, didn't they tell you that it was canceled? He said, no, they never called. And he took time off of work and he was waiting for us. The communication is just key to everything. So if this happened to you, I would just let them know and do something formal about it.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things here too, Helen. I love that you took the initiative to say maybe request me so I can come back. And that sometimes just showing people that you're interested in getting work and working with them and being of service that's 90% more than a lot of other notaries do, where they're like, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. So showing that really
I learned it from y'all.
The other thing is, there should be an expectation to be compensated. Just our job is to show up and facilitate the signing. If we show up and something's not right, we should get our full fee. With signing companies, it doesn't work that way for some reason. I don't quite understand it. They may not have the relationships that are strong enough to bill their client, but on Escrow Direct, when these situations have happened with me, I get paid my full fee. Because I showed up, I drove, I scheduled, I didn't take other signings to be there to do that job. And my clients appreciate that. So I get compensated full fee. And even if they reschedule the next day, I might give them a break. Like, all right, well, I've already been paid for that one. So maybe we'll do it half on this one or whatever it is. I'm always thinking the big picture, but this is a weird fluky thing, these cancel fees and trip fees, especially if you find out that the signing company is billing their client for the full fee anyway, but then not sharing it with you.
Wow.
So we've got one more person that has had his hand up. Hi, Hank. Are you available?
Yes, I am. How you doing, Bill? And,
really good. Thanks for your patience.
Okay, this one is pretty much on the same line you guys have been talking about, communication. I was reading a forum, and a signing agent had an assignment through email to confirm with a buyer about a signing, and they wasn't able to reach the buyer, and they weren't able to reach the signing service who gave them the assignment. So they never showed up to the appointment, and when it was all said and done, the signing company was actually mad at the notary for not showing up. Is there a protocol to at least go to the signing anyway and then reach out to the signing company? Or there seems confusion here with this communication part.
Yeah, I think, and you're going to get, I think, probably a few different opinions. I'm of the opinion that if I was hired to be somewhere at 2 p.m., I am showing up there at 2 p.m., even if I can't get a hold of my borrower. Because a lot of times borrowers give like landlines to the lenders. They don't want their cell phones ringing. But I have to trust the system that somehow somebody communicated to this borrower that the appointment was at 2 p.m. and they're expecting me to be there. So that was my priority, my goal. Has it bit me in the rear end sometimes? Sure it has, but I get compensated for that anyway. So, but it's a big deal to me. Now I know there's other people that have different opinions on it. Carol, what's your philosophy on this?
Okay, if you're unable to get a hold of the people to confirm the appointment, in most cases, I would go. Because you never know, they might be busy, their work, they haven't been able to catch the phone. What bothers me are the companies that say, do not contact the borrower.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go. There's a reason why they don't want you to contact the borrower. And if you ask them, well, are you communicating with the borrower? Have you talked to them? Don't worry, we've taken care of it. You just show up. I'm sorry, but I've had a few times where that's not been a good idea, and it made my practice to not go. If I can't touch base with the borrower, there's something wrong. What if I need to get instructions to how to get there? Things happen. What if I am running late and I need to let them know? So if you don't have any kind of a relationship or communication with the borrower, I wouldn't go. I'd make it very clear I'm not going to go to the appointment unless I can contact them.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
A lot of the signing companies that we sign up with, they have several pages of certain things that we have to follow. And on lots of them, there are, in the middle of all that stuff that half the time nobody reads, it will say, even in the event that you cannot get in touch with them, you need to show up to the appointment.
Nice.
So I didn't know if anybody wanted to know that. Maybe other people have read it, but almost every one of the companies that send you like 2 or 3 pages of their stipulations, somewhere in there it usually says even if you can't reach them, you need to show up.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's probably spelled out in most cases.
And then I would assume that somebody is getting a hold of them. If they're not concerned about your being able to get a hold of the borrowers, if they say, yeah, please just go anyway, then I would more likely go. But if they tell me, do not contact the borrowers, something's wrong.
You know, I treat this business as a business. I'm a professional, and building relationships and communicating like when I'm arriving, I'm scheduled to arrive, that's part of my business. And even though there have been a few companies, one in particular, signing company, that had that blanket policy, don't contact the borrower. I did anyway, because I know that they are trying to protect their customer from unprofessional notaries. They probably had some bad experiences. I trust that I'm going to take care of the customer, and I deserve to communicate with the person I'm showing up to. Time to put the dogs away, time to, pick up wipe down the syrup from the breakfast table. Like that stuff, we've got to be able to communicate to. All right, guys, that's it. That was the last question of the decade. Hank, that was a great question. Good conversation. Guys, thank you so much for showing up here every Tuesday with us. I think Carol feels the same way. This is one of our favorite times here. Happy holidays. Thank you for supporting us, each other, Jason Braunstein's family. This is what this is all about, and I love the community that we've built together. So thank you. Carol, any final farewell for 2019?
No, same to everybody. Just be safe. Have wonderful holidays. Laura and Bill and I are trying to put our heads together to figure out some more interesting things. If you guys have some thoughts about what you'd like to explore, please email us, let us know, and give us some ideas of what we can help you with.
Bill?
Yes, hi.
Hi, quick question following up on something you mentioned this morning on office hours. And I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but I'm going to ask, since this is the last one until the next one starts up. You mentioned the possibility of changing times and or some calendar changes to both the office hours and TNT. Will we, if that hasn't been defined, I'm okay, but will we be getting some kind of notice, email, smoke signals that this is when it's been changed to?
Linda, have you noticed how many emails I send out?
I gotta ask. I mean, we don't, I'm in Tennessee, East Tennessee, in the mountains. That's why I said smoke signals. That's the only way you can find out stuff,
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely send an email, and we can announce right here too, Carol, right? Like we're changing times. TNT starting January 7th will be 12 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesday afternoon.
January 7th?
Starting January 7th.
So it is. I'm going to be 77 on the 5th.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Wow.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
It dawned on me. Oh!
We'll have birthday cake. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you later. Have a great week. Bye-bye.